Hey folks, welcome back. This is my semi-conclusion, but it is the completion of the build of this pistol, and I'm sure there's going to be tweaking down the road, but what I have right now is a 100% functioning, have not range tested, but have this pistol completely assembled, and I have my Smith & Wesson SD40 VE mated to a Gen 3 Glock style, to be exact, a PSA Dagger lower. I had to do some modifications, as you saw in my other videos. If you have been following, all two of you, I had to shorten the slide a little bit. Actually, because I had overhang, it was out of an angle, so I shortened the slide, and you saw all the machining. I'm not going to be redundant and go over that all again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the function and the overall fit. And I might even take a little measurement for you on the trigger gauge. If I can move this without knocking everything over. Okay, here we go. What do we got? Okay, so first off, take a look at her. Oh, she's clear. Drop the magazine, right? Nothing in the magazine, nothing here. You got 15 plus 1 of 180 grain goodness. 40 caliber. Put that back in here just for now. And here's a look. Go around and point some features out. Here's your fit in the front. No flagging. This is just for visuals. I'm not pointing it at my face, don't worry. As you can see, I have a stainless steel guide rod. This is your fit. There's really very little frame wobble at all. The rails fit beautifully on this. That's right. And here's your rear. The rear, rather, where I had to cut it down. See, they go? PSA, baby. Doing God's work for the shooting world. For the two-way world, I should say. Okay. Now, the rear over here. By the way, before I even get into the steel sights, this was the original SD40 VE steel front sight. I just put a little bit of red paint inside of there. And then I had an extra leftover M&P, is that going to focus? M&P rear sight, which was steel. I reused that for here because why have a plastic sight when you can have a steel sight? That fit right on there, no problem. The back over here, I actually had to put this, and I used a metal cutting wheel very carefully. I viced this with some wood in my vise. I took some measurements, and I slowly cut metal off, and then I hand finished it off. And this is a custom back plate that I had to make a striker plate. I actually had a custom striker plate. It was an all aluminum striker plate, and it actually stuck out. I put it on afterwards. Then I took measurements, cut the initial part off. Then I hand filed it down, hand filed all the contours till it fit perfectly, and that absolutely works perfectly. I already mentioned the stainless steel guide rod. This has a P80 polymer 80 trigger setup in it, trigger bar, and also, as you can see, a flat face trigger. And which is nice about the PSAs, they already come with like a slightly extended takedown lever, so it's easier to grab. Not like the Smith & Wesson ones, they were horrible, you know. But this has a slightly extended, as you can see, magazine takedown button, all from PSA. But I'm going to have to say this about PSA. PSA, I know you're offering these frames at a really good price, but you have to do something about your trigger bar assemblies. They're just barely adequate, and that's all I'm going to say about that. I actually had to replace it because I know I did something custom with this, but I bought two other of your frames that I have, and here's proof of one. Glock 23 upper on one of your frames, and I had to replace the trigger bar on that one also. Yeah, just the hell of me. See? P80 trigger and P80 trigger bar. It just seems to be mad at better material. It's better finished, the whole 9 yards. But just the hell, I just wanted to show you that. Let me get this out, put it out of the way. Back to the specimen at hand. Okay, so we have this all done. We're going to test our trigger pull. There you go. Do that again, drop the magazine. There's your reset. There's your brake. Let it go all the way out. Take up. That's it. There's your wall. And there's your brake. We'll show you one more time. You got really good. Now I had to mix and match the springs, striker springs, trigger return springs, to get the right formula to get this. See that? Where this trigger safety will engage. If you don't go with the right combination, you're not going to get, if you go with too light of a striker spring, you're not going to get proper trigger safety engagement. So I went with a 5 pound on this one, 5.5 or a 5 pound. I believe the stock is 5 pounds, 5.5 pounds. But I went with a 5 pound, but with a combination of the polishing that I did and different things of that nature, it's like every pistol's different, literally. You could have 100 pistols, and I could swear to you that you're never going to build two exactly the same to get the results that you want out of them. It's just, there's no blueprint. But you can see that you have in the back. If you go like this, bring it in, it comes out, see? Full engagement. That's important. The other thing is sear engagement with your firing pin. I had to play with that a lot and make adjustments on it, and I finally got the right combination. But here you go, ready? Again. All the way out. Wall. And there's literally, there's no grit at all. There's your wall. This is how you travel. There's your wall. There's your brake. Reset. Right there, tactile. And it's out. And you have full safety engagement. Now let's see if we can get a reading on this. Okay, let's see what we got. See what we got. See what we got. Okay, just to show you all, we are set to 0. We're zeroed on the wheeler gauge. Old school gauge works like a charm. Just a hair over 4 pounds. And I am getting this consistently. Do it one more time. Reset it. Okay. We'll go, all right. Gotta hold that dingus in. No, I'm holding the trigger, just the dingus. There you go. One more just for good measure. See, and I pulled that one wrong. I hastened that one, so it was almost 5 pounds on that one. We'll try to do this properly. Now I'm not pulling it right. Come on, man. Come on, man. Here we go. There you go. That one's almost right at 4 pounds. You pull it correctly, you're getting just over 4 pounds on it right now. Now, on the inside, show you what I had to do to the frame. Here's your sear area. People call it a crucifix or a cruci something, but because it looks like a cross, obviously. But just the surface of this was polished, and I had to make some adjustments on the back of this to lift it up to get proper sear engagement, to get enough of an angle up. And I'm sure I'm going to eventually, if this ends up giving me any trouble down the road, I'll just try a different trigger bar completely. But right now, this is working out well. I've got a nice angle in that right now. It's in the back of the sear. It kicks up just enough. I don't know if you can see. It's a little scratched up. I actually, that's just scratched up from adjusting it. I did smooth that off with a little emery cloth, that little burr on the top. But I had to actually, I did pad my vise, and I gave it a little, I watched Johnny Glock and follow his advice on how to give it a little tweak in the vise. And I got it up. I had to do it 3 or 4 times. And now I have proper sear engagement. I'm getting, perfect engagement. It's not tripping like it was when I first started adjusting. Another thing, this was a 9mm frame. I had to put in a 40 caliber ejector. It's a Glock ejector. Your trigger bar over here, I did deburr this a little bit. I didn't reprofile, I just polished. And I'm going to say that these P80 trigger bars actually come very well polished. So it doesn't need a lot just on the contact points. I did a little on the side, a little on the side, right with it rides on the striker plunger, which I have a lighter striker plunger in there, and that's all polished also. Polished the surfaces here, here, all 4 corners, and I did not reprofile, I just polished it. That's all high polished in here. That is the engagement area. That whole flat area, see if I don't even have anything to point with, because this is going to be too big, right? This whole area, that whole flat, is where your reset happens. So the Glock would reset about here. This resets about 50% further up than the Glock, or actually probably 100% more. So if you're doing one of these click things on the back of the slide, it's going to be pretty tough to pull it with that. But these trigger bars are actually pretty nice. So the PSA trigger bar, when I first got it, I had to tweak it. I had to move this over. I had to do this. I had to grind that 4th gen little nipple thing they had off it. It was dragging on the slide. It was a semi-nightmare. And it was very rough. I could not get the slide to, I had to put when I installed the slide, I had to push the trigger bar forward to get it on. I couldn't do it in the down position like this. It just would hit this. It was a high spot. So when I installed this, I was able to, put the slide in conventionally immediately. The other thing I did is I modified, there's a little slot in here. You can see that I had to grind that little block out so it would get past the block on the back, because this block was interfering and wasn't allowing me to rack it. It was stopping, I wasn't getting lockup on it. Over here, the trigger plunger, looks like I took it out. The trigger block plunger, safety plunger, I removed that and I high polished the whole thing, top, bottom, side to sides, and I actually lowered it a little bit to get better clearance and smoother engagement with this over here. The Glock one, I'm going to give you a comparison. If I can get this, there you go. Here's your comparison. Now I want you to look at the height of the safety plungers. Look at the height difference. Obviously the Smith & Wesson one sits a lot higher. So when you're putting a Glock frame on, you have to overcome that, because your trigger safety bar is going to impact that. So not only did I take a few hundred thousandths of an inch off of this, I took it out and I hand filed around and rounded the tip off. So when that ramp hits it, it has a nice little ramp, a smooth ramp to engage and start riding over. I don't know if you can see it. I think you can see it like that. The Glock has it built in already, but I also high polished the Glock one too. I didn't modify this one, but I high polished it. But the Glock had that ramp built into it, but I had to put an extra like little bevel around the edge of that plunger, and I had to lower it down to get that trigger weight that I wanted, and to get the trigger pull, and to get that first, instead of hitting like a false wall, now I come back to the wall. I come right back to the wall, and you saw I got a clean break. So let me reassemble these. And all I have to do is go, that's on, that's one. See? So this one is a Glock and Meadow. A Glock and Meadow, all right, or a Glock and Dagger. And this one right here is a, what do you want to call it? A Glock and Wesson, or you want to call it a Smith and Dagger. As you can see, 12s have a stainless steel guide rod, 18-pound spring, stainless steel guide rod. This one is not captive, so I'm not going to pull it out. But I will show you once I put the slide back on. Drop that back. You see how nicely everything goes on, and all I have to do is take it, go, ready? She's on, and that's it. Okay, get slide lock. Got this back, take that out. You can see how nicely the feed ramp, if I can show that up on camera, can I get it? Oh, yeah, there you go. That is polished to a mirror. The whole ramp is polished up nicely. I do this to all of my semi-autos. And from my experience, for the little bit of time it takes you to do that, you're gaining more than not. I mean, you're getting proper feeding, smoother feeding, better extraction, because you lightly go in and you can polish the inside of the chamber also. Don't go into the rifling. Just give it a boom, boom, couple of times and smooth everything out. And you're going to get nice chambering. You get a nice extraction. That round will ride up there perfectly. It has no burrs whatsoever. I had a Canic that came with, it looked like I don't know, I did a video on it a long time ago, but it had machining marks, almost like rifling, right on the top part of the ramp. So I actually physically reprofiled that, polished it out. When I took that to the range, no issues whatsoever. So there you go. Now, there you go. So there you go, people. That is my Smith & Dagger Glock & Wesson hybrid pistol. You know, this literally is the type of frame, maybe not so much the trigger mechanism. The cruciform, that's the name of that trigger bar thing inside. See, I'm really not a huge fan of this setup. It's still a piece of sheet metal. I don't care what they make it out of. I don't care if it's made out of unobtainium. It's still a piece of sheet metal. I mean, that's it. That's what it is. I mean, it's people can say what they want about it. People can say it's proven, but to me, it's something that can just tweak out of spec too easy. It's just too easily tweaked out of spec. If you have them tuned, great. And maybe they last forever. Maybe I just don't know what I'm talking about, and that's probably what it is. But it's just a piece of sheet metal, and everything rides literally. From my limited experience working on this, and I've had this frame apart probably 20 times, just troubleshooting it, and the other one too. I mean, this one, and then I've got another one I'll show you on camera real quick, and I'm gonna get proper sights. That's a night sight in the front, and that one's a fiber optic, but whatever. You're setting your connector, and then you're setting this. If any of that goes out of whack, you're screwed. That's all there is to it. So here, let me put this back. I got it tuned right, and everything should stay. Hasn't given me any problems, but it's just a very delicate dance. When you're building and tuning these things, it's a very delicate dance. And I have a pretty vast mechanical background. I'm not even going to get into it. But if you don't know what you're doing, I don't advise doing if you're not mechanically inclined. If you don't know how to use precision tools and measure, don't even bother. I wouldn't have. I happen to have precision tools. I happen to have the proper basic machinery to do these things. A lot of it's by hand because I'm not a machine shop. But I would not advise the layman to get into this all. This is not for the faint of heart. Let me show you my other pistol. The last one I did. Okay, now this one's more like a straight up, I'll put this one aside, straight up G19 basically, but it's G23, I'm sorry. As you can see, it's a 23. I got some weird pitting on it. I got the slide second hand, but other than that, the rifling is excellent in it. There's a polyogonal rifling in these right here. I mean, it's... When I first got my first CZ and I saw the rifle, I'm like, oh my god, this barrel shot out, but I had no idea what polygonal rifling was. Anyway, clear, polished, see, nice and polished, again, clear, no ammo. Very nice. This is around 4.5 pounds also, this trigger pull. I'm not going to get into measuring it for you, but let me show you. It's the same deal. Now this one I didn't have to tweak as much because this one was custom because the firing pin's a Glock firing pin. I just modified the front so it would pass through the channel. But still, you're talking about a complete custom engagement job. So that was really was kind of a pain in the ass. This one was a lot more straightforward, but still had problems adjusting. I did have to tweak the cruciform a little bit. I don't know if you can see it. Can I push this forward? Yeah, you can see it's got a little upward angle on it. But the other pistol's got more of an upward angle because it's just a whole different animal. Once again, modified it and put the 40 caliber ejector inside of it. Polished all the tips, same as the other one. Same as the other one. One word of caution on this pistol right here. I was getting false slide lock and I was racking it back, even with the magazine out or whatever, obviously. For whatever reason, when I was pulling on the trigger, the mag catch of the slide lock, it was right. It was like you'd pull back on this like this, and this would go up with it. I had it relieve the inside of the frame. I had to take the whole trigger group out. I took a thin nail file, like an emery board, and I relieved this side of the frame. Just a little bit, just deburred it, and that caused the problem. You know, it could have been a break-in thing, but that would have been like driving me up a wall, firing, or just racking it and then getting false slide lock because of it. Just because I had my trigger back on it. So if you kept your trigger and you kept a little pressure on it, you see your trigger bars moving, right? That's supposed to move. This isn't supposed to move. This whole unit was rubbing on the side of this, so I had to relieve it, and that's it. So that solved that problem. Anyway, I just wanted to show you guys how I made out. So now, there's one, there's two, and then there's 3. So there you have it. The conclusion before the range test of my Smith & Dagger, Glock and Wesson, SD40 VE, I don't know, what do you want to call it? 24 minutes. By all means, leave your comments below. Any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them to the best of my ability. And once again, thanks for watching. Thanks for coming along on this little adventure. And woo, I'm glad it's over. Talk to you all soon. And please like, subscribe, and thumbs up if you like this content. And like I said, if you have any questions, please leave them below. I will absolutely answer them in a timely manner. Talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.